Sail, beautiful people. It's night time because it gets dark really early because it's winter in the southern hemisphere. So, Spirit won't leave me alone. I was having fun. I was talking with everybody, Rob and Reem and Kathy and a friend of mine in Holland. And Spirit's like, get on with this. So, you've all seen the introduction video. I have here the cards. I'm going to kind of sort of move them around. And then we'll stop suddenly and we'll see what's on the bottom and we will read the energy. Unless this is one of the ones I've agreed I'm going to do with Reem and Rob. I'm going to do some with Patrick as well, but I'm waiting for him to come back. But it's important as a kind of collective that we start reaching out and doing things together, because otherwise we keep talking about these collective messages and we're doing them selfishly on our own. So let's see what comes. I feel like I'm bouncing the... Oh, I know why. I need there's a little bit of a wobble on the table. And I put a book under it earlier. Well, paper. So let's just start with this. We are looking at Super Empath. So, Super Empath. This is a tricky old one to get started with. I'm really, well, I would say I'm really surprised, but Spirit doesn't surprise me so much anymore in that it kind of goes in with the lance. This is a bit like beginning with a tower moment. Super Empath. So quite often when you read online about super empaths, they're meant to be these kind of, super amazing, really powerful empaths. And it's very much an energy of kind of like spiritual egotism. It's a desire to somehow imagine that we as a super empath are higher than the others. So it's very much a hierarchical title that we use. However, all of these empathic energies we need to experience. We need to have a moment where we believe we are a super empath. Now, what is a super empath? A deceit in many ways. So it's someone who believes somehow that they're a kind of empathic hero, that they can bring about wonderful transformations for people. And actually, although they believe that they're a hero, in actual fact, they're a wounded warrior who's seeking to be something much more bold than they really are. So they're kind of in a cul-de-sac of spiritual egotism. But as I said, if this is the energy that you're in, you kind of need to explore it. You need to understand what it means to bring yourself into this kind of energy where you are putting yourself above others. Partly because the energy now that we're moving into this age of Aquarius collectivism is really about coming together with each other as equals. And so if you can't identify yourself as being something more elevated, something more attuned to a higher frequency, then you can't appreciate that you need to come down from that energy. So let's have some bells and see what the bells have to say. So the first bell kind of distorted and came forward, and then it was like being enclosed in... there's something spidery about it. There's something about the energy that's like a distorted webbing that's coming along, that's sort of pulling in and grabbing hold of you and wrapping you up. But I want to say that it felt comfortable. I wanted them to say it's a slightly arrogant frequency, but that's not really what I'm getting. There's no sense of the wrongness of this energy. It's very much an energy that is like a deceitful energy, but it feels like a clothing that you wear that's the most perfect fitting suit. It's like your superhero suit. You've put on a superhero suit, you're super, you're much more special than anyone else that you know. And yet actually it's almost like you are the villain of your own story. That's really fascinating. Look, I'm excited by these because I don't know what they're going to be. I mean, Reem's already added another 2. I think there are lots more traits that will need to be explored, and I'm sure Rob and Patrick will have some thoughts on this too. So we will see how many we get. It might be a never-ending series. Might even be a deck of cards. Who knows? Let's see if we can get up to 70 odd. So I'm gonna, as I do at the moment, I'm gonna begin with the runes. I'm a bit floored by my own image at the moment with this new shave. Right, so super empaths. What's the good and what's the bad? What's the energy? I don't even know what I'm asking for in these. So what is a super empath? What's the point? Do you know what? I want to say there's something clumsy. There's something like neighborhood watchy about this. There's something about this energy that's very judgmental. There we go. We've finally got one. Burst out. Bursten. You're in a trap. 55. So what is this? Oh, this is a spiritual trap, spiritual cul-de-sac. This is an energy of being taught, being the bow, because Bursten is the U-bow. And this is like always being ready to kind of fire, being in a very anxious energy, being in a frequency that is uncomfortable, stretched at a kind of point of snapping almost. Hang on, I've got in the wrong program there. Because I'm a super empath. Library, what number? 55. This is, okay, so this is all these people. I'm sorry if it's you, but the message I'm getting is you're not living in the 5th dimension. Because the 5th dimension at the moment, under the current understandings, is a spiritual cul-de-sac. It doesn't allow you access to the 6th and the 7th dimensions because you're walking down the wrong pathway somehow. I feel like these are going to be a lot of waggy fingers. So, 55, Bursten. Here we have, oh look, how can I get rid of that? How can I get rid of that gloss? So, Empath. If this is a really uncomfortable energy, the super empath, it's almost an energy where if someone says to you they're a super empath, they're in pain. That's the energy that I'm getting. So let's read the poem. Empath. Burst out, free. Tension creaks and arches as the ancient U-bow suppresses rayless tortures endured for eons. The taut-bound bowstring knows a thing has to be set free eventually. The arrow shelf only holds so long, even when the serving point is pulled tight and gripped solidly. At some point, the arrow must burst free from the archer's control. Remember, a Fletcher gifted it feathers to fly away safely, briefly alone, but seeking a new home. So there's a fear energy. There's a fear of loneliness attached to this. So you super empath so that you feel above the loneliness, so that you move out of this frequency of being isolated. This is an ancient eons. I feel like this need to be a super empath has been with you from childhood. This is the absence of acceptance. This is the societal judgments placed on you for whatever reason. It could be to do with sexuality, it could be to do with skin color, it could be to do with gender, it could be to do with poverty, it could be to do with how you appear, it could be to do with your awkwardness as an empath. But it's led to that energy of the Five of Pentacles, that energy of excommunication, that energy of not being allowed to be part of a loving, stable community. And so it's elevated your awareness. Everywhere you go, you're tuning in to a prophecy almost, an energy frequency that's telling you you do not belong. There's a starseed element to this. That's interesting. So let's go with opening the 9 realms. As I say, I don't want to make these really long. I want to try and burst the traits and allow them to be short enough for you to remember what we're talking about here, because in many ways we need to identify when in our lives we were using the super empath energy. There is an energy of early emotional empathy, and your only way to plug up the hole that you're bleeding all the time because of the way the world and society has mistreated you has been to elevate yourself. It's interesting that they've made me look at this. It's affecting your inner health and your prosperity. I want to say that there's your Ace of Cups is suffering with an inner emotional poverty. It's a very uncomfortable energy. And after this, I'm obviously going to sit down and think, when did I experience the super empath energy? And in many ways, for me, I experienced it because of school bullying, for being a homosexual or a queer boy. And I don't give a shit about any of that now because I'm a grown-up person. And when we're young, this is when these energies can formulate. And this is when these energies can raise up. I remember, see now, it is coming to me. So for me, I had a form tutor who was my English teacher. And he really despised me. And I would just call him now a very incompetent teacher because he wasn't able to reach out to all of his class, all of his pupils. So he wrote on one of my school reports that I kept myself aloof from all of my peers, all the people in my class. I needed to be aloof from them because if you are the one person being bullied by everybody else, you have to find a way of making yourself feel better than everyone else, which is to be above them. So I connected to my super empath abilities then. And I could tune into all of them and just find them all distasteful. And that's not their fault. You know, in many ways, it's also not the fault of the teacher, but he really should have been able to empathize with my situation. In fact, he so despised me that we did a poetry class. I think it was a Causley poem, and it was about water. Oh, that's interesting as well, you see, that connection to the Ace of Cups again. So the end of the poem, he must have been 15 years of age. The end of the poem was that the sea gave over its foam into the cave. And he asked people what that meant, and I put my hand up and I said, well, it means sex, sir, doesn't it? It's like an orgasm. And he said, don't be stupid, Pen. And I thought, I'm not being stupid. That is what that is in poetry. Foam going into a cave. I'm sorry, I don't know how else you're meant to read it. And his other thing, I used to sit at the back on my own. He had like 2 seats, 4 seats, 2 seats in rows. And I used to sit in the back because it was near a window, and then I could look out the window when I wasn't listening to him because I was being a super empath. Was being aloof. So I used to sit on my own, and he would say to people if they were misbehaving, if you don't shut up, I'll go and make you sit at the back next to Pen, because he knew I wouldn't speak to anybody. So, you know, it's interesting to connect to these old energies that we need to burst free from. I don't feel like I'm in this energy. I don't feel like I feel like a super empath anymore. I've done that phase, but I'm being given the chance now to identify how I've sat at that table and explored that energy so that I can be more humble within my empathic gifting. But I'm saying some of you might still be doing it. No. So, what else can we say about this super empath ability? This spiritual cul-de-sac. Oh, that's interesting. So it's a Bilaros, but it's in reverse. Now, I wouldn't usually read it in reverse, but it's like you're being fed a spiritual empathicness. That's the wrong direction. It is like cul-de-sac. You really do have to just stop and just go, I'm done with being a super empath. There's such arrogance to this energy. They're saying, look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. A lot of what goes on in the spiritual community is connected to this super empath. You know, people when people are leading lives that feel very ostracized, very shut out, very bullied, very much surrounded in toxicity, we need to imagine a much more super wonderful world. And it feels like this is a tricky Jupiter trap energy somehow. And we need to be able to forgive ourselves. Forgive ourselves. That's an interesting concept. We often seek forgiveness from others, and nobody has the right to forgive us. We have to forgive ourselves. If we can forgive ourselves, others can learn to not be bothered. I don't want to say that they can learn to forgive us, because they don't need to. We all need to forgive ourselves and then not judge others. So this is about self-forgiveness. It's a very important energy. And it very much fits with the new moon, because that's in cardinal Cancer. Reem just did a reading about it. It's cardinal emotions, and this is empath emotions. Cardinal emotions is the new, the refilling, the replenishing of our Ace of Cups. So the next card out again in reverse is Odin. This is the polarity. So these crows that were flying down here, they're now encircling Odin's mindset. It's like I'm seeing in my head, and I don't have the deck anymore, I'm seeing the Kim Kranz Tarot Six of Cups with the tree in reverse. And that's interesting because when you reverse it and put the roots at the top, I think all the colours are in the roots, as if what's being fed to us from the ground is deeply colourful, deeply mineralised, deeply earth energy to transform us. But you're putting your roots into the air now with all the colour. So you've misplanted yourself, because Odin is very much a tree in this deck. He is the Yggdrasil. Here's the roots going into the rocks, the trunk, and then his consciousness is the branches and the life. I want to say there's something about opening the other eye. So when we're this way up, see your past. Down here it's the right eye of the now. See the now to bring yourself round, turn round, and come out of this spiritual cul-de-sac. So, I want to know what's positive about this energy. What's positive about this energy? The moon. So this is connecting with the Ace of Swords. It's about moving our emotions to truth. Cardinal emotions in Cancer being moved towards an absolute truth within ourselves, to recognize that we wander down spiritual cul-de-sacs. We're led down them. So there's almost a Pied Piper of Hamelin that's drawing you down, forcing you to go into that area, because the lesson is to walk the wrong path and turn round. It's like the lesson of tripping over in public and getting back up and being fine. I remember walking down London Road in St Leonards-on-Sea with my bike, and I just went to lift the bike over the pavement, and just somehow I just fell over backwards. I don't even know how it happened, but I let go of the bike and I just fell. And I knew as I fell that I had a rucksack on my back and that would protect my head. And so I just let it fall, and everybody rushed over to help me, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, are you all right?" And I'm like, "I'm not that old." But the point was, I just got back up with laughter, because I did a pratfall. I allowed that energy, and that's something about this super empath is like a pratfall. It's like going down a pathway with all these ideas that you have, that you're better or higher or more connected than other people. You are the super empath. You are the Jean Grey of the X-Men. You are, the phoenix hidden within. And actually, you're not. None of us are. And yet we all are. But if we want to release, oh, that's really fascinating. If you want to release the phoenix within, you have to allow that phoenix to be released in everyone. It's got to be an energy that we all have, or nobody has it. The final card is the Knight of Swords. I feel like it's talking about the spiritual cul-de-sac, the error of your ways, the going down into super empath cul-de-sac is about arming you with your own truth. But you can't do that until you can acknowledge that it's time to turn around. And it's about kind of creating an arsenal of strength through inner truth, through allowing yourself to acknowledge that sometimes the veil, the moon, draws you totally in the wrong direction because it's actually the right direction, and you need to experience that to release something. So I'm gonna, because we're already nearly at half an hour, and I really don't want these to be longer than half an hour. They might be longer when I do them with someone else. But let's put some alchemy of astrology on and see what we get. It's interesting that this is hot air. That's the energy I'm getting with this. It's hot air rather than true air. And that's interesting in itself because I've just been in hot air. And now I've come to cool it air. So do we have some kind of alchemy message for how to work with the super empath path? So we've got Vesta, but the second card is air. It's interesting. So part of the whole journey is about us creating a new empathic philosophy. And I will explain it more, but it's to do with the 7th and 8th dimensions. But for the moment, we're just dealing with the idea that you're trying to edit your thoughts to free yourself from this super empath frequency that is the spiritual cul-de-sac. So, so we have these two first, and then the second part of the journey is how you're creating rotten dreams within the reality of your world. Again, the energy of turning your frequency on its head by editing your thoughts. It's really interesting. There's something about this Pisces card, this empowering energy. This projection is a misprojection. This is bewitching yourself with deceit. This is so Neptunian. So Neptunian. And it's rotten. It's decomposing you. You need to reuse the energy that you've learned in this deceit as a growth opportunity. To make a better and more pragmatic use. So we've got this energy at the beginning of cardinal emotions. The new moon in Cancer. This is representing cardinal air. Cardinal air is Libra. Bring yourself back to a truthful balance because your scales have gone the wrong way. And this is cardinal earth. So there's something about how when we're in this super empath delusion, which we have to do, we all have to experience this seat at the empath table to connect all of our empathic energies and to feel some kind of light. The only area where we have fire is in Vesta. Vesta is the eternal flame, but this is more like eternal energy. This is an eternal energy that is an essential energy to witness in order to transform. So this is about forever standing in your power. This is also, there's an energy of this. Vesta never appears in art in any kind of humanoid form. It's always a flame. So it's about recognizing the energy behind our vessel, the truth behind our physicality. It burns eternal. And so any errors, any hardships, any experience in life that's deeply, deeply uncomfortable can be transformed because our eternal truth is kind of like the weapon that holds us safe. We have to edit our thoughts. We have to be logical. We have to be cerebral. This is really about air energy, the energy to edit our existence, edit our philosophies, see our emotions from a cerebral point. Don't allow the energy of, you see, I'm being drawn back to this. You've got to burst out of an emotional cesspit. You're almost in a septic tank, believing you're a superhero, a super empath. It's a rotten place to be, but you have to witness it. You have to experience it in order to grow, in order to develop. There's something about candor, again, honesty, truthfulness, but not to anyone else. It's not like you need to go to the people that excommunicated you or pushed you out of society or who bullied you. You need to have candor with yourself. Just acknowledge that you suffered. I suffered from bullying to make me stronger, to make me go through this energy so that I could transform this energy into another of the empathic frequencies, turning our lives upside down, bursting free. 55. And 55 is a master number, but again, they're saying this is a spiritual trap where someone says, yeah, you need to live in the fifth dimension, get out of the third dimension. We're in the third dimension. There is an aspect of us in other dimensions. But if all you can do is imagine yourself being a super empath above others in the fifth dimension, you're limiting your own possibilities. You're limiting your own dreams. You're making them rotten. Oh, there's something about this. Look, it's a natural, and if you can't do it there, but if you join that part up to there, it's the rune of Lagu. And this becomes 12th, a blockage, a prison. Forever standing in your power, but going nowhere. Forever standing in a Jupiter crater on the fifth dimension, believing that you're better than others. So, what what would help to burst out, or what message do you have for people to understand how to end this super empath impasse? I like that, an empath impasse. How do you transform it? What's the final message that people need to know? It's the lower world. And that's what's been coming. So they're saying, you think you're in the fifth dimension. You're trapped. You're trapped in a demonic prison of your own creation. It's 31. It's like a reverse of true muse energy. 13 is to be inspired. And you're trapped in a mirror of your own making. The spiritual cul-de-sac, this energy. What would help people to get out of it? What would help people to get out of it? What would help people? What do they need to know to get out of this? So look, Odin was his own tree of life. You need to turn around. You need everything to reverse, and you need to walk forwards. From the prison. This is 13, 5 and 8. 5, leave the fifth dimension. Walk towards the 8th dimension. Because the 7th dimension is where you have the building blocks of your personal empathic philosophy. And in the 8th dimension, it's where the architects of the universe will help you to create your cosmos, your solar system that will bleed into your existence and show you how to burst out from this lower world trap that you believe is a higher world frequency. Super empath my ass. We have to go through it to get out of it. That's the message. Oh, look, it's 40 minutes nearly. I'm sorry about that. I really wanted them to be short. But that's the message. We begin with super empath. Get your ass out of the dark, dark mirror of your own making. Okay? They're not all going to be like this. Some of them are going to be really beautiful. It just chose to begin with a waggy finger. Because maybe we need that wagging finger to remind us that many of the philosophical, spiritual, empathic pathways that we've been guided to by ourselves, by our guides, by other people, who often are doing this to make money for themselves, are the wrong pathways for the future, and for our future, for your future, and for the age of Aquarius. We need new thoughts, new philosophies, and new inner cosmos, new inner solar systems in which we have control of our lives, rather than giving our power over to old philosophies that we need to break free from. It's a very beautiful message. A little bit disturbing, but I just want to say I've done mine. So anyway, that's part 1 of now what was 18 is now 20. And we'll see how many of these traits are as we go through the series. Anyway, what's up, beautiful people? I love you very much. Burst out, ex-burst them. What's that?